Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're continuing the Hachaim. We're in Parshat Matos, Perek Lamed Aleph, Pasuk Beis. We're going to learn the second Hachaim in this pasuk. This pasuk, Hakadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, what seems to be, says the Hachaim, I want you to take Klal Yisrael and take revenge against the Midyanim for them causing Klal Yisrael to do Averis and causing 24,000 people in Klal Yisrael to die. In addition, the pasuk says that after you do this act of taking revenge against the Midyanim, it will be time for you, Moshe Rabbeinu, to be Osef El Amecha, to go into the Olam Manas. So the Hachaim says, I don't understand. From the pasuk, it seems that Hakadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu to take Klal Yisrael and lead them in battle against the Midyanim. But we see that Moshe Rabbeinu not only didn't lead them in battle, he didn't even go to the battle. He stayed behind and he sent Pinchas. The Hachaim says, where in the pasuk does it seem to say that Hakadosh Baruch Hu wants him to send Pinchas? If you look at the simple meaning of the pasuk, it seems to indicate that Hashem wanted Moshe Rabbeinu himself to take with Klal Yisrael revenge against the Midyan. The second question, the Hachaim says, what does Moshe Rabbeinu's death have to do with them taking revenge on the Midyanim? It seems to be that once you finish this job, then it will be time for you to die. What does one have to do with the other? So the Hachaim says, from the simple reading of the pasuk, says the Hachaim, it seems that Hakadosh Baruch Hu wanted Moshe Rabbeinu to lead the attack against the Midyanim. However, we see that Moshe didn't even go out to war. Even though the Hachaim says, I explained, that it seems to be that this is what Hashem wanted Moshe Rabbeinu to relate to Klal Yisrael, take revenge against the Midyanim. Im kol zeh pshat hakosav mashma. The Hachaim says the simple pshat, the pashut pshat of the pasuk seems to be that Hashem wants it shehu atzmai yinkan, that he himself, Moshe Rabbeinu himself, should go and take revenge against the Midyanim. Lo sheyishlach Pinchas b'mekarmi, but not to send Pinchas in this place. We know that Pinchas led Klal Yisrael in the battle. Pinchas was the one that actually killed Bilam, excuse me. How he did it? Bilam was trying to run away. He was saying Shemus Hatuma to try to fly away, says the Medrash. And every time he flew to the ground, Pinchas took the tzitz, shined it or focused it towards Bilam. That caused the Koich Hatuma to evaporate. Bilam collapsed on the floor. Again, he tried to fly away, collapsed on the floor until they caught him and they killed him. So the Hachaim says, I understand, that's very nice, but the pasuk seems to indicate that Hashem told that Moshe Rabbeinu should be the one leading Klal Yisrael. Also, why did the Hakadosh Baruch Hu say that the dependence, that once you finish taking revenge against Midyan, then it will be the time for you to die. But as long as you don't take revenge, I can't let you die. So we're going to see a very fascinating Hachaim, how the Hachaim takes a pasuk and reveals, at least according to his pshat, the meaning and the secrets behind the pasuk. The Hachaim says the word nikaim, take revenge, can be explained in two possible ways. One is that Hakadosh Baruch Hu is telling Moshe Rabbeinu that not necessarily that I want you specifically to lead them to battle, but I want you to prepare the battle. Pirush hischakmus seder hamalchama l'to'elas hanitzachim. I want you to devise a strategy that makes sense, that according to the natural law, right, as we'll explain in a second, this is the best way to attack Midyan. Which means, in reality, you could ask a question. Why did Hakadosh Baruch Hu have to send anybody? Hakadosh Baruch Hu, first of all, can wipe out Midyan in one shot. And even if you say Hakadosh Baruch Hu wanted Klal Yisrael to do the job, send 10 people, make a minyan, and they don't need anybody else. The answer is that Hakadosh Baruch Hu wants things to be done b'derech hateva. And therefore, Hakadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, as we're going to see why in a second, specifically, that there was a strategy here, is Hakadosh Baruch Hu was telling Moshe Rabbeinu, devise a strategy, a battle plan, which means, Bein Bishir Hatzarach, what is the normal amount of soldiers you need, between the military, between the materials, the formation, right? V'harochas haloich mikadomer. How do you go ahead and attack them? Do you come from the left? Do you come from the right? Right? Do you make believe you're attacking in this direction and really you come in that direction? Or no, really maybe just make one big charge up the middle? Whatever the right plan should be. Now, interestingly, how did Moshe Rabbeinu know all this? So we know that when Moshe Rabbeinu left Mitzrayim, he was How old was he? He was 40 years old. For 40 years, the Medrash says, before he even got to Midyan, to Yisro's house, he was a king in a country, in Cush, I think, according to one Pshat. And there he learned, especially being under Paroi, in Paro's house. He was a prince, he learned strategies. Remember, Mitzrayim was the military power of that world, and obviously it would be logical to say that Moshe Rabbeinu, growing up in Paro's house, learned how to lead the armies, learned battle plan strategies, and that was implemented once he became the king of Cush, and he led different battles, as the famous Medrash says, that there were snakes surrounding a city, and how Moshe Rabbeinu figured out how to get rid of them. Okay, that's a story for another time. But you see that Moshe Rabbeinu understood strategy. It wasn't just, okay, Hakadosh Baruch Hu is going to destroy us, we're just going to show up 5,000 men and wipe everybody out. No. Hakadosh Baruch Hu wanted, right, that to set up Nikoim, set up a way that we could attack Midyan. Sheni, the second possible meaning, says the Hachaim, Atzma Shipu'ulas Halakama, that Hashem wanted Moshe Rabbeinu himself to attack Midyan, which means there's two ways to understand the directive, the command of Hashem. Number one, Nikoim. I want you to prepare a strategy that will allow Klal Yisrael to attack Midyan. How many soldiers do you need? How many weapons do you need? How much logistics do you need? What's the strategy? How many people do we send in this direction? How many people we do in that direction? What's the second wave of attack? The second possibility, said the Hachaim, was that Hashem wanted Nikoim, you should take revenge. The Havin Moshe Pir Tzadik. However, Moshe correctly understood the true meaning of what Hashem wanted. Ki kavonis Nikoim. The word Nikoim, his chakmus seder hadover shabtzusa tiyanakama. That Moshe Rabbeinu understood, as we're going to see in a second, how that what Hashem really wanted from Moshe Rabbeinu was not that he should lead Klal Yisrael, but rather prepare a strategy, the correct battle plan, how to defeat Midyan. Pir zeh hatztakasu mimash ama shaloyam ala Hashem beferish hidlochem b'Midyan. It doesn't say hidlochem, I want you to attack, like an action. Rather, it says nikoim, take revenge. How should you take revenge? There's many different possibilities. Gam lefishe hiske b'mashal lefneinu. Moshe understood a very important point. Moshe Rabbeinu understood that he needed to plan properly. And this goes back to what we mentioned before. Why do you need to plan? Just take 10 soldiers. It doesn't make a difference. If Hashem is with you, right? If Hashem is going to destroy the enemy, Hashem Ishmael Chama, Hashem doesn't need more than 10 people. Yeah, you need 1,000,000. Okay, the truth is you only need one. You don't even need one. But okay, al derech ishtadlus, take 10 people. No, Moshe Rabbeinu understood something very important. Number one, he understood that every shevet had to participate, because every shevet, one way or another, was affected by the Maisa of Baal Pa'ar. Mitam. Kihine ha'om, right? It says Hashem wanted Klal Yisrael as a whole to take revenge against the Midyan. However, the problem was the nation that they wanted to take revenge against them, which was Midyan, they caused them, was a nation that Klal Yisrael did an aver of arais, of forbidden relations. Some actually did it, and some had thoughts that they wanted to do it. They overcame it, but even a thought of an araya has an impact. There's a famous story with the Baba Meir. Baba Meir was the son of the Baba Sali. Baba Meir lived in Ashdod. The Baba Sali, a few times in his life, he went from Morocco to Eretz Yisrael, then back to Morocco, then back to Eretz Yisrael, then back to Morocco. Then for a period of time, he lived in France. Then when he went to France, he came back to Eretz Yisrael. So one of the times that he came back, the Baba Meir, for one reason or another, decided to go visit him to pick him up at the airport. Now remember, the airport in the 70s, 60s and 70s was not like this, the Israel airport today, which is huge, large. It was a small airport, to the point that you were even able to come up to the plane to greet the passengers. Of those that remember, right, it used to be when you left the plane in Eretz Yisrael, you would actually come and onto the tarmac, and then from there the bus would take you to the terminal. Today you don't have that. There was something very nice about it, that you actually debarked the plane and you got to walk on the tarmac a little bit. I remember there was one time even that you were able to walk from the plane all the way to the terminal. But in the earlier days, you were even able to come up to the plane to greet the passengers. That's how simple and the Israel was in those days, especially it was the Baba Sali. You didn't need a whole situation to a visa control. And the Baba Meir came with many people, and they came to greet the Baba Sali. A couple of months later, he met one of the Talmidim, and he happened to mention that the effect that he had from coming out into the view and seeing people, he had to fast many tanesim, and he had to do many sigufim in order to be mechaper on the influence that was around him. So the Talmidim said, I understand, Rav. Number one, you have the Jalabiyah. Number two, there are people surrounding you. What did you see already? He said, even still, the effect was enough. Now, the Baba Meir, people knew who the Baba Meir was. He was often a miracle. People went to him. I know people that went to him. It was open miracles by him. It was incredible. The Baba Sali even once or twice sent him a message, you have to stop because you're changing the Seder of the world. And it's not good. But that's, again, a different time. We'll talk about the Baba Meir, Schusa Yogin Aleinu. So here, Moshe Rabbeinu was very concerned that if he would send the wrong people that even had a machshava of arayis, it would become a kitrig against Klal Yisrael. And soif kol soif, says the Hachaim, yimana mehen hanes behem. The strategy here, says the Hachaim, was not only how many soldiers you need, the materials you need, the strategy was also to get, as we see, the right people, tzaddikim, that would not have a kitrig on them. The last thing Moshe Rabbeinu wanted was that he would send people, the Malach HaMavos, the Sitra Achra, the Yetzirah would come to Hashem. These people you're going to do a nice for, these same people that are taking revenge on the ones that they did Avera for. So Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want that. How did he know that? He understood it from Masei Egel. Says the Hachaim, Zayidme LaMaisa Egel, Shehagam, Shenogaf Hashem Kolarvav, that even though Hashem killed all the people that served the Avodah Zarah of the Egel, Im Kol Zeh, says the Hachaim, Yitzav Hashem LeBali Kones Kohen Gadol B'fnei B'vigdei Zav. Even 1,000 years later, when the Kohen Gadol, 500 years later, when they built the first Beis Hamikdash, the Kohen Gadol, when he went into the Kodesh Hakadoshim, could not wear any gold. Why? Hashem did not want the Malach HaMavos, the Sitra Achra, the Tzamach Mem, the Yetzirah to come and say, oh, you know this gold that the Kohen Gadol was wearing? You remember the gold that Klal Yisrael threw to the Ego? You can't forgive them. So nothing. We don't give a pischoin peh to the Yetzirah. Here too, Moshe Rabbeinu understood that even the people that just had a machshava, they didn't do an avera, they overcame their Yetzirah, still it would be enough that the Mekatreg would accuse Klal Yisrael that they don't deserve a nes, and they would end up losing the war. And therefore, the message that Hashem was telling Moshe Rabbeinu was be wise, be smart, pick a strategy how to attack Midyan. In Kol Zeh, as we said in the Hachaim, Yitzav Hashem lebal yikones kohen gadol lefnei v'gdivuna. Gam tziva shoichnei shamayim lechases kamfeim ragleim shedoim l'regel egel. The Hachaim says something that I never knew. The feet of the malachim are like chickens, are like calves. Hashem said, from this moment on, you have to cover those feet. Why? I don't want to remember the egel at all. I want to have zero to remember anything that should remember the egel. I don't want to see it. It's going to get me upset. Again, Hashem doesn't get upset. It's for us to understand that there's kas and anger and punishment. Hashem doesn't want it. Leval is ara mekatrek. That the mekatrek should not one day say, oh, you remember though? You see the feet, the calves that the malachim have? You remember what Klal Yisrael did? Hashem said, I don't want it. The mikol shekain, for sure, be'esa mechama. During war, where we need schusim, we need nisim, we need Hashem's rachmim. She's oyer hamekatrek ala chet sheba mehem. Moshe Rabbeinu and Hashem did not want the mekatrek to remind Hashem of the avera that they did. We can learn from this that before any war, the Kohen HaMashiach would get up and say, okay, anybody that just got married should leave. Anybody that did an avera should leave. Anybody who even spoke between the Tefillin Shel Rosh and the Tefillin Shel Yad and the Tefillin Shel Rosh, which by the way is a big avera to speak between the two Tefillins, should go home. Anything. Why? Because any little avera that a person has, if he's in a situation that Hashem has to give him chesed and rachamim, the Mekatri says he doesn't deserve it. That's one of the reasons that we always daven, Hashem, I don't deserve it, grant me a naschinam. That, in a way, prevents the Mekatri from saying he doesn't deserve it. Right? Many times a person davens for something, and Hashem wants to give it, Bezin says, no, not so fast. Let's see if he deserves it. Let's see if she deserves it. But if a person says, listen, I don't deserve it. Mass you for matnas chinam, because you can give a present for nothing. Then Hashem is much easier for Hashem to do it. Lazeh, says the Hachaim, Kishi Arma Hashem LaMoshe Nikoim, Vadai said Moshe Rabbeinu, Kavaras Hashem, who is Chakmus B'Seder Inyan. Lahorim HaMechesh HaOmer, to remove the possibility that the soldiers that I will send will be soldiers that even had a little bit of a machshava to do an Avera, not to send those people. And we're going to see that he didn't. He sent Tzadikim. Zehu Ikar Adavar Sheta'ala B'Yadam Anakama. And that's exactly what Moshe Rabbeinu did, and that's why they had the schus. And who should lead them? The one that stopped him, Agefa, the one that overcame, the one that was jealous for Hashem, the one that, the whole thing that Hashem said, this is the person that's jealous for me. Moshe Rabbeinu understood that he's the one that should lead Klal Yisrael. Because who will be the greater defender of Klal Yisrael? The one himself who stood up for Hashem. Now the second question that the Hachaim said, Achati Asif Elamecha, Niriki Niskav Eloima, Shekoidin Lechein Einu Shalom Atikon Yosef Almav. Shroch was telling Moshe that until you take revenge against Midyan, or until Klal Yisrael, and until you devise the correct battle plan, you're still missing a little bit of a tikkun. Because at the end of the day, when Zimri came to you with this taina of why can't he live with this zoina, you didn't say anything. And that little nichshol that you had by not preventing Zimri from doing the Aveira with Cosby, with the Rashanta Cosby, that's a little bit of a pigam on you. And the only way to erase it, because you are Moshe Rabbeinu, even though you didn't do anything, and even though you tried to stop it, but you didn't kill Zimri and you didn't stop him, you have to take revenge against the Midyan. Once you take revenge against the Midyan, then your tikkun will be complete, and you will be able to go to this place in Shemaim, says the Hachaim, that's called Amecha. There's a place in Shemaim where the tzaddikim live together, and that has a name called Amecha. And once you do that, you'll be able to go to Shemayim. And Hakadosh Baruch Hu, as we know, deals with tzaddikim on an exact level. The closer you are to Hashem, the much more careful you have to be. The closer a minister, a prince, is closer to the king, the much more protocol, the more closely, the much more he has to keep to protocol. Any deviation of protocol is met with tremendous punishment. A cook, a waiter, okay, there's certain protocols that he has to do, but if something is a little off, nobody cares. But a minister, someone who's in front of the king 24/7, one deviation from the proper way to act, they kill him. So lahavdil too. There was no one closer to Hakadosh Baruch Hu than Moshe Rabbeinu. So even though he had nothing to do with the Avera, and even though he didn't want the Avera, and even though he had no machshava, and even though he was against everything, but since this little minute thing that he didn't stop Zimri and he didn't kill Zimri, that is the thing that he has to do to finish his complete tikkun. Moshe Rabbeinu smartly, wisely, b'hischakmus gadol, understood what Hakadosh Baruch Hu wanted, and therefore he set up and he sent tzaddikim gemurim to go and take revenge against Midyan. And Baruch Hashem, Hashem granted them a nace, and they defeated Midyan. They killed Bilam, and then they were able to make their way towards Eretz Yisrael, Hakdosha, and that's who should be zeicha to continue to see nisim v'neflois ad biyas goel tzaddik.